This is sex. And so is this. For all the many ways there are to conceive, there are just as many ways to give birth. In the calm waters off Patagonia, the bay stirs with the arrival of wisdom. A man can release 300 million sperm in a single ejaculation. Inside the woman's body, the sperm moves through a difficult obstacle course that may have been designed for weeding out undesirable sperm. This journey can take hours. In the end, only a few ever get near the egg. Now the egg reels one sperm in, absorbs it, and divides. The merged egg and sperm begin their first journey together. With the emergence of sex, life got complicated because now males and females had to coordinate their lives around each other. It's breeding season for European bitterlings, but they seem to be showing more interest in the local swan mussels than each other. The first step to sex is making sure you're doing it with the right one. This courtship ritual tells them they're the same species and the opposite sex. Once the fish have partnered up, they get busy making babies. She releases eggs with her long egg-laying tube. He fertilizes them. All along the stream bed, pairs of bitterlings bombard mussels with sperm and eggs. These mussels have grown accustomed to the bitterlings, since the females have been nudging them for weeks, preparing them for this moment. Occasionally, a female will hit the shell too hard, triggering its clamping reflex before the male can perform his half of the sex act. The insides of the mussels become tiny nurseries. The fertilized fish eggs develop into embryos, and the mussels are now pregnant with another species. This pregnancy doesn't hurt the mussels in any way. They incubate the bitterlings' embryos in their gills. And when it's time, give birth to them. The bitterlings have found a near-perfect method of conceiving. Plus, they've ensured a safe place to incubate their young, all without having to carry and bear the offspring themselves. Over time, creatures came to break their bond with the aquatic world. But some didn't break the link completely. This Jamaican frog is a land animal, but it still must return to the water to have young. These two found each other when the female responded to the male's calls. Aquatic creatures can have sex without touching. They just deposit their eggs and sperm in the same area. The move to land meant if animals wanted to conceive, they had to get closer, close enough to touch. Frogs still conceive externally, like most fish, but the male now lies on top of his partner, holding on with his legs. This is the best position to cover her eggs with his sperm the moment they emerge. There are a lot of eggs, and the male frog holds on tightly to be sure they're all fertilized only by him. Spiders were among the first animals to completely adapt to life on land. Mating now took on a whole new meaning. Bird spiders, like many animals, are solitary. If anything approaches them, they stay and fight or flee. For the spider, physical contact goes against the basic instinct to survive. So getting close enough to mate can be nerve-wracking. Life on land means they can't rely on water to mix their sperm and eggs. His sperm has to reach the eggs inside her. The brown male taps his legs, a courtship signal. She can be dangerous if she feels threatened, but she hasn't run away or, worse, attacked him. Courtship gives them both a chance to keep their fears in check, so he keeps tapping. Enough of this small talk. He gets close enough to insert his sperm, then backs away quickly. She's too unpredictable for a lingering embrace. If he's to fertilize her, just touching, like frogs, is not enough. To get his sperm inside the female required an evolutionary change. One of his legs is specially adapted to remove a sperm packet from his body and insert it into hers. Internal fertilization was born. Hopefully, he taps for a third round. But now she has enough sperm for all her eggs. So it's back to a solitary life for both of them. Internal fertilization has prompted many creative inventions. A damselfly spends its entire adulthood mating. The male has evolved a clever way of ensuring his paternity. One function of his penis is to inject sperm, but his penis also comes equipped with a handy scooper, which enables him to remove from her the sperm of a previous male, as he's doing here. Now he deposits his sperm, but since he doesn't want his sperm scooped out by another male, he refuses to budge. He sticks with her, even when she's ready to lay her eggs. He hangs on. He has to, because there are so many male damselflies around. Even when she dives into the water, he'll nearly go down with her. A female damselfly is an egg assembly line. Breathing bubbles caught on her body, she lays the eggs that have just been fertilized, while she steadily makes new, unfertilized eggs. She has a sharp point at the end of her abdomen, which she uses to cut tiny holes in plant stems. Then she'll lay a single egg in each hole. The males are waiting above, ready to grab her as she emerges. The design of the male's penis is both a blessing and a headache for him, because he spends his life scooping, injecting, and hanging on. In the acacia trees of East Africa are affectionate creatures who spend most of their time preening, clucking, and generally living up to their name, lovebirds. Lovebirds have a very active sex life, but how do they mate when the male has no external organ? Birds need to be light to fly, so they had to make some physical adjustments. For a male bird, a penis might have some disadvantages. It could add weight and produce drag in the air. So instead, the male has a genital opening, his cloaca, which he presses against hers. His sperm is pulled inside the female by her muscular contractions. Female birds have a lightened load too. They get by with one ovary. This inseparable duo pairs for life. Their internal fertilization makes the male fairly confident that any offspring will be his. But there are flying creatures who don't mate like birds. They're warm-blooded mammals, bats. The Australian gray-headed bat has to manage courtship and mating upside down. In such a precarious position, it's easy for something to go wrong. Fortunately, the bat's anatomy makes it all. Except for the lovebirds, the animals we've seen so far only get together at breeding time. As soon as they mate, they go their separate ways. But sex can have more subtle powers and lead to more lasting unions. For East African olive baboons, females have a partner at their side even when they're not in heat. In order to be there when she is ready to mate, he sticks close by. They begin to rely on each other for protection and companionship. When she does come into estrus, her genitals become obviously swollen and pink. Now, all nearby males know she's available for mating. And they start coming around. Her companion stays especially close to her during this time because there are so many males checking her out. Sex is the fundamental bond between these two. But it's grown into more than that. They stay together during times they are not having sex. Their closeness is nurtured for years, developing into a long-term partnership. Humans, too, need to form long-lasting relationships. Our culture encourages monogamy, and this one-to-one relationship creates an opportunity for intimacy. We are one of the few creatures who can mate any time, who has sex for pleasure and as a way of communicating. Ultimately, sex serves the purpose of passing on our genes, with the hope that our children will be a little like us. Whether that child will be a boy or a girl is for now beyond our control. But for other creatures, the sex of an offspring can be determined in bizarre and surprising ways. A female Bonellia worm feeds in the warm Mediterranean. Her nose can grow 6 feet long, but her body stays the size of a female crocodile. She could easily have been born a male if her mother had hatched her in a different spot. When the mother lays her eggs in the sand, the embryos inside have no particular sex. As the embryo grows, whether it will become a male or a female is still a toss of the dice. What does decide the sex is temperature. The warmer the temperature, the larger the embryo grows. These turn into males. If it's slightly cooler, the embryos stay small and turn into females. Being large is important to males, who will have to fight for females when they become adults. There are other creatures who exert much more control when it comes to choosing a sex. The bee society is one where every individual is planned and everyone's sex predetermined. This colony is populated with females, but only one of them is able to reproduce, the queen. The queen collected sperm from several males, and she's used that sperm to fertilize her eggs and produce females. The females become the colony's workers. They have specific tasks, like making brood cells, the chambers where the eggs are laid. There are different chambers for males and females. The colony decides which kind to make. By feeling the chamber, the queen can tell which sex it's for, and then lays that type of egg. So although the queen has the ability to lay the egg, it's the colony which tells her what the sex of that egg will be. The colony makes more females than males because males don't help at all with the housework. But sometimes a male is needed. When a male is born, like this big one in the center, the females have no use for him. He can't mate with any of his sisters because their ovaries are not developed. Their mother made sure of that. Instead, he's forced to go out and spread the colony's genes. And the sex of our children, but we have made some breakthroughs in discovering more about them before they're born.
Okay, and we're going to start with just a general survey of the uterus, so we could tell the lie of the baby, the placenta, the amount of amniotic fluid.
Throughout human history, the developing embryo was a mystery. Knowing what went on inside the womb was largely beyond our understanding.
Check for anomalies of the spine. Here's the head.
But with advanced technology, we've opened up that mysterious world.
All right, see all the way down to the sacral
One
spine.
important development was ultrasound. Using this wand-like instrument, sound waves are bounced off the fetus. These high-frequency waves immediately convert into images of the embryo.
There's the other leg. You can see the knee. This is spine again, okay? The spine is easy when it's up. It's really great to see that way. And there's the ears. There we go.
Oh, that's great.
See the ribs there? You can see all the little bones of the ribs.
Yeah, at least I know he's developing good.
It's an incredible moment when a mother sees her unborn child. The movement she's been feeling is now given an identity.
And to the head, you can watch it, and then coming out the other way. So you can watch the blood flow, make sure all the parts of the body.
Only 30 years ago, we couldn't see the status of an unborn child. We couldn't see this beating heart, this delicate spinal cord, this turning head. But today, through the use of a sonogram machine, we're given a window into the world of the developing fetus. We no longer have to wait for its birth to discover its sex and monitor its health. While the sonogram may not reveal all the secrets of pregnancy, it's still an invaluable way for parents to start taking care of their child before it's born.
See right there? So you got a boy.
It's not like it. When I saw him for the very first time, it was a very comforting feeling. It was a feeling of bonding with the baby, that you knew that this little person inside of you was really real, was developing a life.
No matter how many medical advances we make, the creation of life is still a miracle. We're used to seeing females doing the work of caring for the young, but in the natural world, the roles are sometimes reversed. This male Siamese fighting fish carefully cups his tail around his mate to keep her eggs from floating away. When he's fertilized the eggs, he dives down on them and gently catches each one in his mouth. He covers the eggs with mucus to keep them afloat. He has already prepared a nest of air, a nursery of bubbles. Using the force of the water's surface tension, he fastens the eggs to the bubbles. Now they're in a secure place where he can keep an eye on them. He maintains his nest of bubbles by producing new bubbles when the old ones burst. There's no rest for this busy father-to-be. The water bug has taken looking after its young one step further. The giant water bug can't leave his offspring alone for a minute. That's him carrying the eggs. When the female lays a few eggs, he stops and fertilizes them. By continually stopping and fertilizing after each batch, he's making sure they're all his. They say it's a wise child who knows his father. It works the other way around, too. Another doting father can be found in Panama. This poison arrow frog babysits his tadpoles. They were laid here as eggs, and he's been watching over them ever since he fertilized them. When they've outgrown their leaf, their father plays chauffeur. They need a bigger place. A few tadpoles hitch a ride on their father's back, and he bounds away, looking for a new home. Water can be found nearly anywhere in a rainforest. A little pool formed in a tree cavity is a perfect spot. The father drops off his tadpoles. He'll go and bring back their brothers and sisters. When he's transported all of them safely, he'll say goodbye, his fatherly duties over. We hardly think of tsetse flies as warm, nurturing creatures. These African insects live by sucking the blood of mammals. But the tsetse fly mother is nurturing. Her newborn must go through a maggot stage. The problem is how to feed it during this critical time. It's impossible for a maggot to suck the blood of a mammal. So what's a tsetse mother to do? She sucks enough blood for the developing maggot inside her so that it doesn't have to find blood on its own. When it's born, it's almost as big as its mother and heads off to pupate already gorged with food. That's because she, now exhausted and undernourished, really did eat enough for two. The offspring is able to go straight from pupation to adulthood, ready to suck blood for itself. When both parents are busy caring for their brood, they'll take advantage of To beat the short breeding season, these ambitious parents figured out how to beat the system and come out one chick ahead. Another Australian bird devotes all its time towards the success of just one offspring. It's so well taken care of in the egg that it's nearly born a temperature is just right. He can't afford to let his egg cook. His oven has been a success. Signs of life stir beneath the dirt. It's as if they've been baking themselves an offspring, and it's finally done. The parents have poured all their energies into one chick, and it's worked. it hits life running. The mother had made an egg with so much nutrition, and the father had made such a safe place for it, that the youngster was born precocious. It can immediately take care of itself. The parents are now free to mate and bake again. There's an incredible variety of ways animals bring their young into the world. One of the strangest takes place beneath the water. Seahorses mating. They float together in a watery embrace. And when it's over, they go their separate ways. This seahorse is now pregnant and will carry the babies for 50 days. These mythical-looking creatures are fish, although highly original in design. The seahorse joins the maternity ward among the seaweed. There, other seahorses wait for the moment of birth. That moment has arrived, but the amazing thing is, it's the father who was pregnant, and it's him having the babies. The female dropped her eggs into his pouch, and he fertilized them inside his body. For us, it's surprising to see a male seahorse giving birth. But is that any stranger than a mammal that starts off inside an egg? This is an Australian echidna. It uses an ancient method that virtually all other mammals have abandoned. She has the best of both the egg-laying and mammal worlds. She has a pouch like a kangaroo, and inside it is her fertilized egg. She's now looking for a quiet place to hatch it. Her mammal baby is now ready to come out of its shell. If there ever was an opposite to the malleefowl chick, this is it. The hatchling's first adventure in the world is to struggle through the fur in its mother's pouch, from eggshell to milk supply. It's really an embryo and must remain in the womb-like protection of her pouch to suckle and grow until it's big enough to face the world. Other Australian mammals, the marsupials, are a lot like the echidna. But while the echidna gave birth to an egg, this Tamar wallaby is giving birth to an embryo. The baby itself is not far past the microscopic stage of cell splitting. It's so underdeveloped that it doesn't even have hind legs. Once it's found the pouch, it attaches itself to a nipple and will remain there for several months. Then it will be big enough to leave the pouch, but only for short periods of time. This mother has a big joey in her pouch, and she's pregnant again with another one. The pouch system creates a reproductive assembly line, and a female wallaby is pregnant virtually all the time. This reptile is a chameleon, and she's pregnant. Most reptiles lay eggs, but not this one. She gives birth to a fully developed baby. The newborn chameleon just needs to get its bearings and dry out a little before it goes on its way. This tiny baby, barely 1.5 inches long, seems too vulnerable to be left on its own, and yet they all start out this way. The mother is free, and if the season is right, she can start looking for another male. Sometimes only one part of an animal needs to be highly developed. Gray-headed fruit bats hang upside down from the branches of their forest home. They have adapted to doing everything upside down, from mating to giving birth. This baby won't be able to take care of itself right away. It will need a period of care and nurturing. But how can the mother take care of it in such a precarious position? The baby is helpless in many ways, but it's extremely well equipped for holding on. A large part of its internal development was concentrated in its feet. This is part of its survival strategy. Practically nothing could make it fall. It will hang on whatever the mother does. We humans are conceived and developed in fluid. Life began in the sea, and this link to water is true for nearly every living creature. Women evolved an internal sea, the womb, complete with cycles and life-giving forces. In this watery world, a human embryo can be fed and nurtured for 9 months. A big brain is our survival advantage. But if the human mother were to wait until the child was fully developed, she would never be able to give birth naturally. The child's head would be too big to pass through her pelvis. So the human baby must be born as early as possible, and even then, the exit is still difficult.
Push again. Yeah. Right down. Come on, right down. Push again. Push again. Push again. Again. Good girl. 15, 16. Jesus. 16 pulse.
Once again, sex, the driving force of life, has created an individual who never was before and who never will be again.
Oh, mother.
It's her breathing time. She's got to decide to.
Don't cry, mommy's here. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus.
Next time on The Nature of Sex, babies, young and helpless. This baby will be dependent on its parent for many years, very like this young one. Others grow up quickly and leave parents behind, even when danger is all around. Coming of age can be a celebration, but until then, these are just the young ones. Next time on The Nature of Sex.